Listening to you talk, I had mentioned before the show that I listened to a teaching on truth that you had done
Hmm.
not too long ago, and it was very powerful and motivating, especially to our family. We came into Torah about 3 years ago, being observant in Yeshua, trying to trying to do our very best with what we have and what we can, And listening to that, I was listening. You took it all the way through, and you ended up in First John, and you were talking about First John and what is sin and how is truth involved in that? You're going to take this on the road. You had mentioned that at the beginning of the show. How is that going to work? Taking on because you're going to be going to a lot of towns, speaking where there's mega churches and a lot of mainline Christian churches
Hmm.
out there that will be fighting against that truth that you'll be spreading.
Well, I rebuke that. No.
Okay.
um, you know, I've been called to repair the breach. Okay, that's been my calling for 17, 18 years now. I read Isaiah 58, and if you haven't read Isaiah 58 or haven't read it recently, everybody listening to me, I encourage you. It is an absolute pattern for how to be heard by the Almighty, by how to live your life properly, and to be called. And this was the thing that always brings tears to my eyes. Says, "You shall be called repairers of the breach and restorers of streets to dwell in." I was like, yeah, I want to be called that. That good and faithful servant, and that, is what I want. Those are the titles I want. And it gives you an if then for that whole thing. So over the years, and I guess from that point, but now walking in it, being anointed to do that, to know how to run in all different circles. I'm from Philadelphia originally. I'm an East Coast guy. I know how to offend people more than any. I've had to soften. Marriage helps. Being a father helps. Is that we're all called to this repairing the breach, mindset and way to walk. We have to go out and teach the truth in love. I guess that if I have to sum it up at all, we have to be able to go out and say, you know what? That guy who proclaims Jesus as the Messiah, really, not some fake thing, not some religious thing, but he's in a church, he's wherever he is, but he really, really believes this, and he's walking in it, to a point. And let's face it, if I challenge anybody out there, are you fully walking in the truth that's been revealed to you? I mean, really? I mean, really, really, really? Are you fully walking in it? I would have to say, in our flesh, if it hasn't been fully crucified, you're not, because this whole faith is about death, right? We have to face it. Our entire faith is about death. Yeshua showed us the way. Now we die. We get resurrected in him. Now we can walk in our calling. Now we can talk about obedience and walking in our calling. So we have to go out knowing, hey, who are we? And this really is a gift. And there's no way that we chose him, because we're just filthy rags. And when you look at other people that way and say, that it's somewhat trite, but there but for the grace of God go I, it's like, who am I? If it wasn't for his empowering grace to walk in his commandments and have any level of righteousness, I would be just like anybody of the other people. So that judgment, okay, not to say that we aren't to, judge one another in ways, right? I'm not just saying it's not kumbaya time all around. There are standards. The Torah has standards. But we have to go out in love. We have to understand, check this out. If you have a word for someone, okay, if the Father really sends you by the Spirit to go give a word to someone, it's not a word of judgment. How do I know this? Because all judgment has been given to the Son, correct? Right? All judgment has been given to Yeshua. So if it's time for this person to be judged, you're not being sent. If their time's up, you're not being sent. If you're being sent, it's a mission of mercy. It's now, maybe this is the guy's last shot or gal's last shot. Maybe there's 100 more, mercies left. You don't know. But you need to know that you're representing the King on a mission of mercy. And if you go out there to represent him who loves this person, and you don't bring that full unconditional agape love with you, then you're the problem. You're the problem, not the person, not their sin, you. And I want to talk later, before we're done, about what is ministry, because there's a lot of confusion about what is ministry and what is your ministry. And I've had real great revelation that set me straight, and I love sharing it. Let's get to that a little later.
Yeah, I know, it's really important too, especially in non-believers, because I believe it's in 1 Corinthians 5. It says, "What business is it of ours to judge those outside the church?" And as a not when I was a non-believer, I became a believer about 7 years ago. I was living in sin. I was doing crime. I was doing armed robberies. I was dealing drugs and doing all these things. If somebody would have came to me and said, "You need to follow the Torah. You need to do this stuff," I don't know what I would have done, but it wouldn't have been pretty. It wouldn't have been something I would receive at all in any way. But it took me being broken down completely in a jail cell, about to lose my mind because I was off drugs for a few days. I was bipolar. I had all kinds of crazy stuff. It took me, like you were talking about earlier, you have to die. It took me saying, "Father, if you are real, I want to know. And if you are real and if you prove it to me, I will give up everything I have and I'll serve you." And that's what I said, and that's what happened. So it takes that to actually to be on you're right, because God, the creator, the Almighty, he's the only person that can make you fulfill your destiny, because he created you. He's the only person that can give you that destiny and lead you to that. And I really love what you're talking about there. And it's even with regular believers, a lot of them haven't come to the knowledge of the Torah as being the bar. That's the bar. That's what sin is. Sin, that transgression of the Torah is sin. And so a lot of them haven't come to that yet, but they do. There are some that actually do love Yeshua, and they just haven't made it there yet because they've been lied to by whomever
they're in a system. But you know what? All of us are in that.